Omega Mama was a well-respected prophetess. Her church, Divine Mercy and Miracle Ministry, attracted thousands of worshippers who trooped in to witness firsthand the raw manifestation of God's power. She performed jaw-dropping miracles and accurate prophecies, and above all, any Yahoo boy who ran to her church after doing some rituals on them soon become wealthy, and these boys trooped to her in their numbers. But what her members did not know was that the source of her power was not from above, but the secret was hidden in a grave at the altar of her church, where she had buried 20 virgin girls alive. In a twist of fate, Okafor, one of the two Tyler who was forced to bury these girls alive, was invited to Omega Mama's church for the baby dedication of his friend, who was a member of Omega Mama's church. Okafor has been hearing of this church and the miracle going on there, but had not gone there for once. Anyway, he decided to honor his friend's invitation and follow him to the church the next Sunday for the baby dedication. The moment they entered into the church, Okafor felt the whole place was oddly familiar. Even though this was the first time of being invited to this church, he felt as if he had been there before. But then, it was when they all danced to the altar for the baby dedication, he noticed something that shocked him. There was something about the ties on the altar that looked very familiar. You see, that day when Don Jethro and his men forced him and Shidi to bury those girls alive and install the ties on the altar, he made a mistake in one of the ties, but he could not properly correct it because of the situation they were in. And today, looking at the ties on the altar, he could see the same exact irregularity in the pattern of one of the ties. Back at home that evening, Okafor was convinced that Omega Mama was the one who sacrificed those girls at the altar of her church, and he was ready to expose her. But then, he knew he must trade with caution, since Omega Mama at this point was very rich, powerful and well connected, and she won't hesitate to kill him if she find out he knows her secrets. And he thought long and hard until an idea finally hit him. So the next Sunday, he dressed up and went back to Omega's Mama's church. His plan was simple. He would start worshipping at Omega Mama's church. He would be very committed in her church. That way, he would get close enough to Omega Mama and gather enough evidence to use against her. And he joined the protocol of her church, and he was very committed. He made sure not to miss any of the church program and put in so much work in that department that it was not long before Omega Mama noticed his seriousness and made him head of protocol in her church. Okafor was very happy. This position was very important because it would allow him to be very close to Omega Mama and have access into places within the church he would otherwise not be able to get into if he was to be a floor member in the church. Meanwhile, something soon started going on between Chief Chinedu, the rich merchant, and Omega Mama. After just 3 months of attending her church, Omega Mama swung into action. One Sunday during administration, Omega Mama told Chief Chinedu to wait for her at her office, that she had a revelation she must disclose to him privately. All through the church service, Chief Chinedu was greatly disturbed. He wondered what Omega Mama wanted to tell him. He could tell from her expression that the message she had for him was something really serious, and he promptly waited behind after the church service to meet with his spiritual leader. Alone with Chief Chinedu at the office, Omega Mama started. "Chief, I see great trouble looming around you. Someone very close to you want to strike you with madness and stroke at the same time and claim all you own. But I don't know how you would feel if I disclose this person to you." She told him. Her expression was really serious. Chief Chinedu was visibly shaking at this point. He urged her to tell him who this person was and what he must do to avert this impending danger. For a moment, Omega Mama was silent, like someone looking for the best word to use. And after a while, she finally replied to him, "Chief, your wife is a witch. She is the one planning to destroy you." She dropped the bombshell. What Omega Mama just said hit him very hard. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. He was confused and upset. His wife was the last person on earth that he expected Omega Mama would mention, and he could not help but doubt what Omega Mama had told him. His wife had been by his side right from when he was poor and a nobody up until now that he had become a very wealthy person. She had stayed loyal to him and they have built a peaceful home together. Omega Mama could see the look of doubt clearly written all over his face. She nodded her head softly and continued, "I see that you don't believe me. Well, today I will show you why they call me Omega Mama. I will pray for you now, and whosoever is planning this evil against you will start experiencing the exact stroke sickness they planned for you. Once this happens, you must drive that person away immediately. If not, their plan will work against you," she told him emphatically. With that, she prayed for him and he departed for home. When Chief Chinedu got home, to his horror, just as Omega Mama had declared, his wife was critically ill. She was showing symptoms of stroke. Their family doctor was already at the scene attending to her. He stood there, rooted to the ground. All the words Omega Mama told him started running through his mind, and he was now very convinced that his wife was planning evil against him. And to the dismay of everyone, he started shouting and calling his wife a witch, while ordering her to leave his house immediately. Much to the surprise of everyone, they all knew how Chief Chinedu loved and cherished his wife, and the behavior he just portrayed was very strange to everyone. But then, all their pleas fell on deaf ears, and he threw his wife out of his house. When Omega Mama learnt of this development, she was very happy. Unknowing to Chief Chinedu, Omega Mama was the cause of his wife's sickness. You see, that day after Chief Chinedu left her office, she immediately swung into action. She hurried into her inner chambers, where her shrine was. It was there she cast a spell of sickness on her. All this for Chief Chinedu to believe what she told him. And so far so good, her plan was working very well. And Omega Mama did not waste any time in telling Chief Chinedu that God had told her she was the right woman for him. And Chief Chinedu could not resist Omega Mama's beauty. And it was not long before Chief Chinedu fell for Omega Mama's seductive move. Just barely a month after Chief Chinedu sent his wife packing, he was already in an illicit affair with Omega Mama, and he started making gradual preparation to get married to her. Even though his wife was seriously sick and fighting for her life, he did not care. He saw her as his enemy. Little did he know he was romancing his true enemy. Chief Chinedu was not the only man in Omega Mama's firm grip. All the rich men in her church were under her control. She was very manipulative, and she intentionally told them prophecy that made them suspicious of their spouses, and their homes were soon in shambles. Some even divorced their wives, while the ones still with their wife made sure to call Omega Mama before having anything to do with them. They even called to take permission from Omega Mama if they should eat the food their wife prepared for them or not, or even sleep with them. And of course, Omega Mama's response always aggravated the situation. She would tell them not to eat their wife's food and not touch them in the inner room. And this control she had over her members only made her richer. All the people in her church saw her as a demigod and donated to her massively and obeyed any of her whims. In all this, Okafor was quietly observing all that was going on at Omega Mama's church. He was not carried away like the rest of the people. He soon noticed that Omega Mama had a secret shrine in one of the many offices within the church, and he did some digging, and it was not long before he uncovered the articles on her arrest by SP Akpan. Okafor was happy. He knew SP Akpan could be trusted, so he secretly paid SP Akpan a visit in his station. SP Akpan listened patiently as Okafor narrated everything to him. How he and his friend were forced to bury 20 young girls alive at Omega Mama's church, and he also told him of a secret shrine hidden away within the church. For a while, SP Akpan was silent, and after a while, he replied to him.
My brother, I know this woman is capable of all you have said, but there's nothing I can do at this point. As you rightly said, you can't prove if it was the same church, since we were blindfolded to and from the church. If I storm her church and dig her altar and cannot find any grave there, that would be the end of my career. Also, I can't go there on the basis of a shrine being in her church, since she would say I planted those items in her church due to my hatred for her, and everyone would believe her. Therefore, I would advise you to go back to the church. If you are able to dig up a convincing evidence against her, let me know, and I will be very happy to take action.
He told him. Okafor understood SP Akpan's concern and took his advice. He thanked him and left back home. Meanwhile, Omega Mama was very happy. She was getting wealthier by the passing day, and just under 2 years, her church grew at a rate most churches could only dream of in 50 years. Omega Mama's joy was full, but just when everything seems to be going on smoothly for Omega Mama, trouble started. She started having dreams, very terrible nightmare. In her dream, she saw some young girls covered in blood, crying and asking her why she unalived them. She would wake up terrified. It was very clear to her that the spirits of the young ladies she sacrificed were beginning to torment her. Worst of all the Yahoo boys she did spiritual work for and had become wealthy, they too started experiencing the same horrible dreams. The ghosts of the young girls covered in blood with money littered about them were appearing in their dreams. They were all terrified and promptly ran back to Omega Mama for help to this problem. Omega Mama was silent for a while, and after some time, she told them the truth. My sons, those ladies you are seeing in your dream are the ghosts of the young girls I sacrificed on your behalf, so that you will be prosperous in all you do. I had to make this great sacrifice because I want the best in life for you. But don't worry, I will take you to my spiritual father. He will cleanse us all so that you will stop experiencing this dream and your wealth will skyrocket even more. But mind you, no other ear must hear what I just told you. And it is already too late to back out, because if you do, your wealth will disappear and the great Omega will punish you, she told them. Her expression was very serious. These boys were taken aback by this revelation from Omega Mama. They were hearing this for the very first time, that Omega Mama was into human sacrifice. As gruesome as this act was, they were not ready to leave her canopy. They knew without her, they would be poor and wretched, and they were not ready to lose their wealth for anything. In short, they were ready to do more sacrifice if that was what it would take to increase their wealth, and they pledged their loyalty to Omega Mama. Omega Mama nodded in satisfaction, and the following week, Omega Mama, along with her loyal boys, traveled to Baba Agbado Shrine for the cleansing exercise. Baba Agbado promptly led them to the back of a small river very close to his shrine. He spoke some strange incantation and mixed some strange looking herbs in some buckets of water and gave this herbal mixture to Omega Mama and the rest of the boys to bathe with. Back at his shrine, he took 20 padlocks, locked them and put them into a clay pot along with some other fetish items, after which he buried the pot at the corner of his shrine. Baba Agbado later revealed to them that he had just locked the spirits of these guests that were tormenting them inside of the pot that was buried, and that there was nothing for them to be afraid of any longer. This news really gladdened the heart of Omega Mama and her boys. They all thanked the old man and left back for Onitsha. And true to the words of Baba Agbado, the terrible nightmare they were experiencing stopped, and Omega Mama breathed a sigh of relief. But her joy would be cut short when just after 1 week, of their return from the native doctor shrine, the nightmare started again. And this time around, it was worse. In her dreams, she was not seeing a crowd of girls as before, but it was just one girl. She was always crying profusely with blood all over her body, and she would wake up terrified. And the rest of the boys also reported to her that they were seeing the ghost of this girl in their dream. And this really bothered her because her own case was worse. She was frequently hearing scream and cry of this girl in her ears, even when she was wide awake. One afternoon, while all alone in her office, she raised her head up, and to her horror, right in front of her was the ghost of this girl she had been seeing in her dream. She was terrified. She closed her eyes in fear and let out a piercing scream while begging the apparition in front of her to have mercy on her. Someone shook her and she screamed even more. But when she opened her eyes, it was Okafor, the head of her protocol, who happened to be close by at this time. She was here, she was here, Omega Mama shouted in shock while looking everywhere frantically. But then Okafor assured her that there was no one with her in her office. That was when her fear subsided. This incident in her office really shocked Omega Mama, and she was really worried and started making preparation to pay Baba Agbado a visit once more. But then, the very next Sunday, while she was at the altar ministering, the worst happened. The same apparition which appeared in her office the day before was standing before her. The ghost was gazing at Omega Mama as if she could see into her soul. A sense of dread washed through Omega Mama. She was visibly shaking and started talking to the figure before her.
Why can't you leave me alone? Are you the only one? The others are resting. Why can't you let me be?
She made this ambiguous statement while gesticulating widely, like someone who has suddenly lost her senses, much to the dismay of her loyal followers, who could not see who she was talking to. After she made this statement, she fainted out of shock, and her protocol quickly whisked her away from the church to the hospital to receive medical attention. Immediately, tongues started wagging. The members of her church were very confused at the behavior of Omega Mama, and what just happened remained a mystery to them, except of course for Okafor, who guessed rightly that maybe she was being tormented by the soul of those she had taken in her quest for fame and power. Omega Mama soon returned back from the hospital, and as usual, she was able to convince her followers that what just happened was a spiritual attack by the powers of darkness which were trying to pull down their church, and that she would be going to the mountains to pray and destroy all these evil powers. And of course, all her followers believed her lies, except for Okafor, who knew she was just playing games. The following day, Omega Mama rushed to Baba Agbado's shrine to complain bitterly that the problem she was facing had only grown worse after the last visit. Agbado was very surprised at this complaint from Omega Mama. He threw his carries on the floor and started speaking in strange language in communication with the spirit, and after a while he stopped. Turning to Omega Mama, he started.
All the spirits of the guests are truly caged and locked away, just as I assured you. Except for the spirit of one of them. This guest's name was Ada, an only child, and an orphan for that matter. That spirit is crying night and day and seeking for retribution. Unless we are able to successfully cage this spirit and lock it away, none of us is safe.
He told her with a grim face. With that, he led Omega Mama to a big tree just outside his shrine. He wrapped a chain around the tree trunk and secured the chain in place with a lock. That done, he started doing some ritual and dancing around the tree while invoking the spirit of Ada into the tree. But while the ritual was ongoing, something strange happened. A lightning struck the tree and the whole tree was set ablaze. Baba Agbado and Omega Mama narrowly escaped being burned by the fire. Baba Agbado was very confused and upset. This was the first time this was happening, and the old man knew this was a very bad omen. He rushed back into the inner chamber of his shrine and he started speaking incantation and pouring liberation to the spirit within the idol in his shrine. After a long time, he finally came out. Omega Mama was shaking and worried, wondering what the matter could be. Baba Agbado was very upset, his eyes red, and he wore a grim face. Turning to Omega Mama, he started.
The spirit of this girl is very strong, and for us to capture it, there is someone you must kill first. Her grandmother. She is still alive. The old man is crying day and night and praying for God to expose and disgrace anyone who took her only grandchild away from her. As long as this woman keeps making this prayer, there is nothing we can do to contain the spirit of this girl.
Agbado told her. With that, he gave her a vivid description of where this woman was located and exactly how she looked like. With this information, Omega Mama returned back home with murder in her eyes. She knew she must do whatsoever it would take to contain the spirit of Ada immediately, and she started crafting out the best plan to eliminate Ada's grandmother cleanly without any trace to her. Omega Mama knew she must act fast because the spirit of Ada was already attacking some of her loyal boys. These were the Yahoo boys who had benefited directly from her deaths. They were mysteriously running mad, one after the other. Omega Mama was very unhappy at this development, and she knew it was just a matter of time before she herself would be dealt with, and she hurried her evil plots. She contacted Don Jethro once more. This was the same notorious assassin she paid to bury these girls alive at the altar of her church. She instructed him to unalive Ada's grandmother. Before then, she had sent the head of her welfare to survey the location the old man described for her, and true enough, an old woman was living there just as Baba Agbado had told her. And Don Jethro and his men promptly started making preparation to pay the old woman a visit. But unknowing to Omega Mama, while she was making this call, Okafor, the head of her protocol, was walking by her office, and he eavesdropped on her. Even though Omega Mama was speaking in codes, Okafor knew she wanted to assassinate someone because he heard her mention Don Jethro, and luckily enough, he knew the location Omega Mama was describing to the person on the other side of the call. Okafor makes sure to secretly record this phone conversation on his phone. Hey, before we jump right back into our story, today massive hug goes to Precious, watching from Durban, South Africa, and Esther, watching from Italy. Thank you so much for your love and support. Please, where are you watching us from? Type it in the comment section so I can send you a hug in the next story. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Anita Chocolate and leave a like on this video. Alright, back to our story. With this evidence in hand, Okafor immediately rushed back to SP Akpan to narrate everything he had heard to him, and he also presented the audio recording to him. SP Akpan was very happy, and he quickly mobilized about 50 of his men, all armed to the teeth, to intercept Don Jethro and his crew and catch them red-handed. And that night, Don Jethro and his men stormed the old woman's house and whisked her away to their hideout with little or no resistance. John Jethro was very happy. This was one of his easiest missions so far. Little did he know, the police was quietly following his trail, and just when he was about to pull the trigger and unalive the old woman, powerful touches from various sources flooded where they were, with a male authoritative voice ordering him and his men to drop their weapon immediately, or they would all be wiped out in a matter of seconds. Don Jethro was in shock and had been caught off guard. He knew it was over for him and his men. From the numbers of touches focused on them and the sound of footsteps he could hear behind him, he could tell his men were greatly outnumbered, and any sudden move would result to an instant death for him and his men. So they gently dropped their weapon on the ground, and they were quickly subdued and arrested. Back at the police station that night, Don Jethro and his men were told to confess their crimes, but they refused to talk. But after they were tortured and the audio of the phone conversation between Omega Mama and Don Jethro was played to them, they all had no other option but to confess. And Don Jethro told the police everything, including how they were paid to bury some young girls at the altar of Omega Mama's church. The following day was the worst for Omega Mama. SP Akpan stormed her church along with his men, and they quickly arrested Omega Mama. They brought along Don Jethro to identify Omega Mama and also to exhume the body of the young girls that had been buried at the altar of her church. And just as expected, the moment they dug a hole in her altar, several human skeletons were discovered, much to the horror of everyone. Omega Mama stood there and she saw the whole empire she had built with the blood of the innocent crumbling around her. SP Akpan made sure to document the whole operation and posted it to the internet. The evidence against Omega Mama was just too overwhelming, and it became clear to even her followers just how evil their spiritual leader was. Omega Mama, Don Jethro, and all his men were soon arraigned before the court. Shidi and Okafor came to bear witness of how they were forced to bury these girls alive in the church, much to the dismay of everyone. The judge, after carefully observing all the evidence brought before him, he sentenced Omega Mama, Don Jethro, and his men to death by hanging, with no option of bail. Thereafter, the state government demolished Omega Mama's church and all her assets were seized by the state. As for Chief Chinedu, the scale fell from his eyes and he could not see just how far he had strayed. He ran back to his wife and begged her for forgiveness, and she forgave him, and they were a happy family once more. Baba Agbado was in Ishura one night when the spirit of Ada paid him a visit. He did not show any sign of fear. Rather, he broke into incantation, beckoning on dark powers to come to his aid. But all this was to no avail. A lightning suddenly struck his shrine, and it was set ablaze, and the whole shrine burned to the ground with him inside, and he was burned to ashes. As for the Yahoo boys, Omega Mama did spiritual work for. Some were roaming the streets insane, and some were battling with terminal ailments, while the rest had gone broke and were living miserable life. Okafor went back to his styling business. He was grateful to God for helping him to find justice for these young girls whose life has been so gruesomely cut short. Meanwhile, the state government sold all the assets they seized from Omega Mama and compensated the family of the deceased with the proceeds. And Okafor was like a son to Ada's grandmother. He took good care of her for her remaining years. So here bring our story to a close. What did you learn from this story? Please share it with us in the comment section. Thank you for watching today's episode from Anita Chocolate. Please don't forget to support my work by subscribing to this channel. Leave a like on this video and share it with your loved ones so they too can learn something from it. Also turn on the notification bell so you'll be the first to see our future upload, and watch these other stories from our channel displaying on your screen while waiting for the next episode. Bye.